Welcome to Agribiotech, the program that highlights the significance of biotechnology to agricultural development in Nigeria. I am Lara Afolayan. The Food Evolution movie is a documentary which focuses on the debate on the use of genetic modification for farming. It is an American production that uses scientific facts to clarify knotty issues on the use of genetic modification for food production. This movie has now been premiered at the Silverbird Cinema here in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. I will be bringing you details of the premiere in the course of today's program. Veteran Nollywood actor who also doubles as biotechnology ambassador, Bob Manuel Udoku, will be speaking to us later on BioChat on how the Nigerian Nollywood industry could as well help educate the Nigerian public on the use of biotechnology for agriculture. But first, let's get to see how Kenyan scientists are sensitizing the public on safety of genetically modified foods. Kenyan scientists have dismissed any fears associated with biotechnology crops, saying they are subjected to very rigorous safety assessments before approval. They were speaking at a cassava stakeholder study tour to a genetically modified cassava research confined field trial site in the country's coastal region. They add that such varieties have been ratified by reputable international bodies such as the World Health Organization and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA). The scientists also want a rise in the momentum of sensitizing every segment of the society about the safety and benefits of the crops. They commended the Kenyan government for drafting flour blending guidelines, which are set to be operationalized by the end of the year. An initiative expected to have all flour blended crops, including cassava, sorghum, millet, and sweet potato, contribute towards food security and improved nutrition in the country. Nigeria has been advised to adopt mechanized farming for food security. One of the country's agro-allied operators feel the country's population of over 180 million people could not continue to depend on cutlasses and hoes, and rather it should adopt technology-infused agriculture. The operator said there were several technologies that could be applied in the various value chains to drive soilless farming. It suggests hydroponic for vegetables and aquaponics using fish wastewater for plants. Aeroponics on its part is a process of growing plants in the air or moist area. Hydroponic farming is the method of growing plants using a soilless means. The operator believes these devices are affordable technologies that could ease farming and are the only way to attract young people into agriculture. The Food Evolution movie, which centers on clarifying issues raised on the use of genetic modification for food production, has premiered in Abuja, as I said earlier. Agribiotech was there and brings you details of the event. The Food Evolution movie is a 2016 documentary produced by Oscar-nominated filmmaker Scott Hamilton Kennedy alongside Thrace Sheehan, and also directed by Scott Hamilton Kennedy. The documentary, narrated by pop astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, looks at issues surrounding the use of genetic modification for food.
Hawaii's ban on genetically modified organisms and the frightening evidence presented during testimony made headlines around the world.
From the Hawaiian papaya groves to the cornfields of Iowa and Uganda's banana farms, this 92-minute documentary tells the story of the safety and benefits of genetically modified foods while discrediting arguments against them.
You know, I said, you're not going to get away with it if I can help it. And we stopped it.
The movie was initially released in the United States in June 2017. It has so far been reviewed by a section of the public as the first documentary that objectively presents issues around food genetic modification in a way that makes science easily digestible by the layman. It is seen as a production that answers every argument against the technology with facts.
Current GMOs on the market are safe to eat and safe for the environment.
The movie is now being premiered in Nigeria at the Silverbird Cinema with the support of the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology, OFAB.
Biotechnology is kind of used in almost all cheese making now. So if you're eating cheese, you're eating a product of biotechnology.
Scientists are also working to genetically engineer seeds that aid humanitarian causes, such as vitamin enrichment in crops like golden rice.
The viewers now share their views.
From the movie, I discovered that GMO is making progress. Genetic engineering generally is making progress. There's more awareness about it. Even in Africa, not in the developed countries, developing countries now, they are more aware about GMOs.
I've always been of the view that it's important for you to get public properly informed on the genetic engineering technology. It's not necessarily because we want to worry about what critics say, but because we think it's necessary for you to know exactly why you have to accept or not accept. And besides, if you look at the risk involved in every other thing in life, for instance, leaving your house and going to work, which seems like a really very natural thing, but it has its own inherent risk. So technology itself has its own inherent risk, like the movie said somehow, but the fact is that it has come to transform the agric industry into a very profitable one.
For instance, they showed us in Hawaii how we held to the pawpaw. They showed us in Uganda how we held to the banana. So it's just a movie that is trying to educate the masses that don't know anything about GMO or that feel that GMO is bad or that it causes cancer or that it kills. It's trying to educate them on the advantages of embracing GMO.
Before now, my general perspective of GMO has always been technology trying to enhance food production, basically. But after the movie today, it gave me a whole lot more information as regards in-depth knowledge on which specific areas, as regards you trying to solve problems that has to do with pests, from kind of an inside-out fight rather than using chemicals to like fight this pest from outside. So you have genes from the plants that can help you fight this pest, and at the end of the day, you're not spending so much buying chemicals to solve problems that nature itself can, solve from these products by themselves.
They say the movie has helped shaping their perception of genetically modified foods in a positive way, and they intend to spread the word on new insights about the technology.
The truth about it is I've actually embraced biotechnology. It's something I'll preach to everybody that you need to go into it. You need to understand what it is, because most of the problems that we have with the issue of introducing something new to people is that there are people that will be against it and there are people that will support it. So one of the things you need to do is to accept, to not to just push, not to start saying no or yes to a thing. Try to understand the thing, and then when you understand it, then you can now prove to people that, okay, I accept this or I don't accept.
The technology itself is excellent, and that's why I don't think you should practice the technology or deploy it commercially if you do not have a biosafety law. And that's what I've done in Nigeria, put in place a biosafety law. And then there's a National Biotechnology Development Agency that sees to it that full development of that technology happens within the space of safety. You understand? And what we do is to educate the people, just bring it to their knowledge that, see, this is what we do. We try to be as transparent as possible. Of course, the critics are there, they will complain, but just put the facts across, right? Weigh them against hunger and starvation, and then weigh them against famine in the face of abundance.
The Food Evolution movie features opinions of scientists, farmers, and activists on genetic modification for agriculture. It uses science and scientific authority to make its argument. The Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology was behind the premiere of the Food Evolution movie at the Silverbird Cinema. Country coordinator of OFAB Nigeria, Rose Gidado, speaks on the motive behind the idea, among other issues. I would like you to tell me about the Food Evolution movie.
Yeah, the Food Evolution movie has it all. The bad, the good, and the ugly. It features all the heated debates about the controversy surrounding GMOs. It also features the other side of the table. That's the pro-GM side. The pros and the cons are all contained in the movie, so that at the end of the day, whoever watches it and takes decision on whether he is for the technology or not is going to be based on informed background. It's going to be based on knowledge, actually not on ideology.
So why have you chosen to premiere the movie here in Nigeria?
I want to have every group, because every single person, every individual is an ultimate consumer of genetically modified products, genetically modified foods, genetically modified crops and all. So we're all ultimate consumers. So it's actually good to have good information, scientific information, factual information about this technology, so that at the end of the day, whatever decision you make is based on scientific facts. You know, it's based on knowledge, not just an ideology or a belief, cultural belief or a religious belief. It's going to be unbiased.
What lessons do you expect the viewers of the movie here in Nigeria to learn on the use of biotechnology for agriculture?
I want them to have those scientific facts about GMOs at their fingertips. I want them to know more about it. Knowledge is power. You know, everyone has the right to, you know, to information about anything. You have the right to knowledge. And so today, this film is going to showcase all that people need to know, an individual needs to know about this technology.
And how do you expect it to impact their behavior towards the use of biotechnology for agriculture here in Nigeria?
Of course, it's going to shape their perception. It's going to shape their perception, because once you have the information, you have the knowledge about anything, not just this technology, but any other thing, any new thing coming into the society. Of course, that first reaction, rejection of any new technology is not only unique to this genetic modification technology, but any other technology that you know that comes in new must have some level of resistance, and that is the phase that we're passing through. But I know that with time, with more education, with films like this, movies like this, or documentaries like this, people will get, you know, will have access to more facts, will have access to more knowledge, more information on this, and I know that it's actually going to help them, you know, to shape their perception. You know, people will be more informed, and all those negativism, all the activism against it and what will actually, you know, begin to go down with more knowledge and all. And this is one of the best ways to do it, because people like movies. You know, it's high time the scientists actually began to bring in some kind of fiction into what we are doing, because people tend to like fiction much more than, you know, the real things. So if you bring in fiction into it, of course you're going to have more, you know, you're going to have more traffic. You're going to have more people liking it and not viewing science the way they view it these days, because it's actually terrible. The technology is being misrepresented. Scientific facts are being distorted, alternative facts are being, you know, recreated and all. So we need to begin to unravel that, you know, mystery. We need to begin to demystify those mistakes and all. And this is one of the best ways to do it.
Nigeria has a thriving Nollywood industry. I wouldn't know if there is some kind of ongoing collaboration between OFAB and the Nigerian Nollywood industry to produce something similar to the Food Evolution movie.
And so we are into partnership with the Hollywood and the US Academy of Science, including our own Nigerian Academy of Science. And so that we're trying to understudy how they did it, how they arrived at this food evolution, and so that Nigeria can also produce something like this to actually demystify this technology, to make people understand it better. So this is the beginning of our partnership. We're actually working towards something like that.
And how soon may we see that happen?
In 2 to 3 years. You know, it takes time to actually shoot a film. It's not a 1-2 days thing, or it's not few months. It can take us 2-3 years, but at the end of the day, I know that something good is going to come out, something Nigerians will like and enjoy.
And at this point, veteran Nollywood actor who is also a biotechnology ambassador, Bob Manuel Udoku, shares his thoughts with me on the Food Evolution movie and how Nollywood could as well make similar productions to further promote the use of improved technologies for agriculture in Nigeria. Good to have you join me.
My pleasure being here.
You were part of the team that visited the US on a biotechnology tour. So what exactly did you learn about the use of biotechnology for agriculture?
The biotechnology tour of US, I think it was in 2012, was an eye-opener to me because we went to University of Missouri, and the core scientists who were really the arrowheads of this innovation, this revolution in food production, were there to take us on a guided tour of their facility, even managed to teach us in a layman's way so that we can understand it, the science behind, you know, improved genetics for food, for crops, seeds. And then we had to see the facilities where these experiments are done. We also saw some of their greenhouses. You know, these are things that are not open to the public. You know, these are some of these areas that we touched were really classified, but because we went on behalf of Nigerian government in collaboration with US Department of Agriculture, they were able to avail us this opportunity to see these things. And my understanding deepened really much after that trip. I came to realize that, you know, innovations keep coming, you know, even in human development. You know, medicine of today is not medicine of 20 years ago, of 30 years or 50 years ago. So also, I found out that agriculture is also moving in leaps and bounds. Science has no boundary, no limits. You know, every day new things come, innovations come. And I think it's a good development because the world population is growing very rapidly. Nigeria is one of the countries in Africa that has huge young population and growing. So we need to find mechanism to grow more food and be food sufficient. I mean, if you cannot feed your people, if you cannot feed your family, I don't think you have the liberty or the chance or the mental state to be able to concentrate on other things, because once you are not well fed, it affects every other thing you do. So it was really an eye-opener for me to be part of that trip. I regard that as a privilege. And since then, I've been positively talking about the need for our farmers, our government, to embrace enhanced food production.
And what role do you think biotechnology can play in helping Nigeria achieve food security?
Mankind is supposed to help nature. Because if the flowers that bloom is left for nature, it grows wild. But when you trim it and keep it very nice and water it even in dry seasons, it blooms all year round. And people see your flowers, your garden, and they say, oh, this is beautiful. Nature is beautiful, but man has to make it more beautiful. Therefore, what it has taught me is that nature needs help. You know, in time past, maybe in the time of our grandparents and great-grandparents, they perhaps didn't know that you can grow certain crops all year round. But over time, mankind realized that if you don't wait for natural rainfall, so the concept of irrigating farms began. And so you find out that you can grow crops year round, and then food will be surplus. So the way it can help us is to really embrace it. In some states in Nigeria, Anambra State for instance, the Ministry of Agriculture, they give improved seedling to farmers. They form them into cooperatives, and these cooperatives, through the cooperatives, they give them even soft loans, without collateral and without interest-free loans, and then give them improved seedling. So today, they are happy about it because you don't spend the length of time you spent usually to get return on your crops. So I think it's a good development that Nigeria really needs to key into before we become, before we begin to come last. We need to, at least in Africa, Nigeria is said to be the most populous black nation on earth. We should be able to feed ourselves without much stress and even export to other neighboring countries.
You are a biotechnology ambassador. What does this mean?
It means that you command a large followership of fans, and even if they're not your fans, they might be your critics too, and they want to know what your opinion is about certain things. So for me, being an ambassador for this program, I always tell people that it's in our interest to embrace biotechnology. So it's advocacy, like the documentary on the food evolution documentary, is advocacy. We need to talk about this thing more and more. We need to convince our people that it is in our best interest to have this change in attitude about crops and yields and farming in general.
What is your take on the food evolution movie?
It is quite persuasive. The movie was put together by professionals in the industry, in the field, and it speaks to the need to improve on our quality of crops, so that we have better yield. And these are professionals who put that together. One more thing I think we need to do about that movie is to make sure that it's shown repeatedly, maybe on television, and people talk about it, discuss it, and make sure that everybody sees it, or even a large percentage of our people, especially those in rural areas and farmers, will be able to see it. We can also do a subtitling of it, in terms of doing a voiceover where these things are explained in local languages so that our people in the villages will be able to understand what the movie is all about and be able to embrace it. Because what you don't understand, what you don't know, you don't understand. What you don't understand, you don't know. So we need to open up the frontiers of knowledge to our people in terms of perhaps using indigenous languages to either in subtitling or in voiceover for people to understand these movies, especially our farmers. Because the message there is scientific. And science is not like ordinary belief where people tell you and you put it to the test. And so the film is scientifically based on this topic of biotechnology. And so we need to also let our people know what the message is all about.
What role do you think the Nigerian creative industry, the Nollywood industry, can play in educating the Nigerian public on the use of biotechnology for agriculture?
The medium of movie making is very powerful. And America is using it very well. What the world knows about America today comes from Hollywood, their films. People who haven't traveled out of this country can stay here and tell you about America. They haven't traveled there before. It's what they see in the movies. Our government needs to really be serious with Nollywood. Very serious. Today, the government doesn't seem to look to the side of Nollywood. And it's unfortunate because we had made gains in the past, but currently, it's not, the relationship between Nollywood and government is not what it should be. It's like the government is saying, you stay in the cooler, you stay there. We know you are there, you stay there. Why do I think it's like that? I think those who are in leadership today are not interested in entertainment, in the entertainment industry. They pay lip service to it. I see things they say on radio and television. But in the practical sense of it, they are not. Now, to answer your question, how can Nollywood help in propagating the message of improved agriculture? Government needs to come in. Most times when people talk about government coming in, people in government think it's about bringing money. Collaboration is necessary. How many movie makers has the Federal Ministry of Agriculture approached to say, we have this program and we have that program. How do you get us a script that can explain to the people, nice storyline that can explain to the people why young people should go to farming instead of roaming the streets looking for jobs? Because that's a huge area of employment. Farming. It's not like yesterday's farming of hoes and knives and cutlasses, but mechanized farming. If you get like 5-10 youths, give them a large size land to cultivate and give them one tractor, one, for maybe 10-20 people. By the time you come next year, you see what they've done. But why should we suffer when technology has already provided that? Again, and I ask, in biotech, for instance, improved agriculture, why should we go the way our great-grandfathers went, toiling with their bare backs bent over under the tropical African sun to cultivate food just for the family, when we can use technology to get abundance of food, not just for our family, not just for our state, not just for our country, but across Africa, and earn hard currency, and feed well, and have a population that is proud that nobody goes to bed hungry.
And on our feedback segment, we take this email from Adepoju, who has worked on legumes and needs assistance in establishing a mini tissue culture lab and plant multiplication center. The Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology OFAB as a response to your inquiries at Adepoju. And this brings us to the end of today's edition of the program. Keep sending in your emails and messages. The email address remains agribiotech1@yahoo.com. Send us tweets at agribiotech13 or post your comments on our Facebook page, Agribiotech on TVC. I am Lara Afolai. Goodbye.